Welcome to Investigations in Ritual Abuse. Tonight, we examine the extraordinary connections between legendary actor and Hollywood icon and a little-known group of Utah Mormons who allegedly referred to themselves as the Church of Satan. In the 50s, a then little-known actor by the name of Robert Redford married a young woman from Provo named Lola Van Wagenen. Lola's father, Frank Alton Van Wagenen, had served as a bishop of Provo's 7th Ward in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and as a second counselor in the Provo stake presidency. Despite this, Robert and Lola had a simple wedding ceremony outside of a Mormon temple. Robert Redford did not convert. Lola's uncle, Dean Van Wagenen, and his wife, Belle Felice de Jong, were the uncle and aunt of David Lee Hamblin's wife, Roselle Anderson. And both Dean and Belle appear in the victim's statements written by David and Roselle's daughters, Rachel, Eliza, and Catherine. Dean and Belle are named perpetrators. Before he lost his license as a psychologist, David Lee Hamblin treated Lola's cousin Sterling Van Wagenen, in part due to Sterling's attraction to young children. Van Wagenen would later plead guilty to abusing a young girl, and he was sent to prison after 2 convictions for abusing the same female victim. Sterling Van Wagenen had produced films for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, including a film used in the endowment ordinance of the church. Alleged Church of Satan member Gordon Stewart Bowen would go on to work with Robert Redford at Sundance, which Redford co-founded with Sterling Van Wagenen. Bowen, like Sterling Van Wagenen, was also David Lee Hamblin's therapy patient. Sterling Van Wagenen was investigated by the authorities after being taped by a young man during a conversation in which Van Wagenen admitted to sexual abuse. During the police interview, Van Wagenen identified David Lee Hamblin as his therapist, the same David Lee Hamblin who would later lose his license as a psychologist for having sex with his patients and attempting to convince them that the sexual contact was part of their therapy. Van Wagenen was not charged for the abuse in that case, but he later pleaded guilty to sexually abusing a female child, and he was convicted in 2 separate jurisdictions for that abuse and sentenced to prison. The story made the news because Van Wagenen was the co-founder of the Sundance Film Festival with Robert Redford, and because Sterling Van Wagenen was a famous Latter-day Saint filmmaker who had been commissioned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to produce a temple film used in Latter-day Saint temples as part of the endowment ordinance.
Mr. Van Wagenen, as it pertains to count 1, a first-degree felony, aggravated sexual abuse of a child, how do you plead?
Guilty.
He took his first opportunity to admit to the conduct and to waive his rights to challenge the evidence or put the victim through the ordeal of testifying in court or any of that. He wanted to just acknowledge wrongfulness and get this taken care of.
Are you ready on any matters?
Sorry to say.
The intersections in the lives of David Lee Hamblin, his uncle and aunt-in-law Dean and Belle Felice Van Wagenen, Dean and Belle's nephew Sterling Van Wagenen, and Gordon Bowen are simply too conspicuous to dismiss as mere coincidence, especially given the allegations made by Hamblin's daughters, who allege that the Dean and Belle, as well as their father and Gordon Bowen, sexually abused them as part of a multi-generational group of Latter-day Saints who called themselves the Group, or the Church of Satan. Those same intersections apply with the recently deceased Hollywood icon Robert Redford, who married Sterling's cousin Lola, and who later hired alleged Church of Satan member Gordon Bowen to work for him at Sundance, where Gordon was purportedly fired for his inappropriate workplace conduct, which allegedly included viewing gay pornography on work computers and misusing expense accounts. The reality is that Redford's intersecting relationships with the Van Wagenen family and Gordon Bowen provide documented connections between Redford and at least 4 alleged child rapists, as well as 1 convicted child rapist in Redford's business partner and cousin-in-law Sterling Van Wagenen. Those intersecting relationships all tie into the alleged child sexual predator, David Lee Hamblin, who was found to have sexually abused at least two of his daughter in 2003 by a court in his divorce proceedings. Additionally, Hamblin admitted to having sex with his patients to the Utah Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing, which stripped him of his license as a psychologist. If you take David Lee Hamblin out of the network of intersecting relationships and replace him with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the intersections are the same for Robert Redford and the Van Wagenen family members, as well as Gordon Bowen. This has been a presentation of Investigations in Ritual Abuse. Like, follow, and share for more content. You can read about the Hamblin case at Investigations in Ritual Abuse on Substack, and you can access police reports, victim statements, and other evidence in the Hamblin case at investigationsinritualabuse.com.